Welcome to the paranormal and metaphysical world of Twilight tonight. Host DeeDee Moonflyer grew up with very open-minded parents who had many experiences with UFOs and the paranormal. Because of her mom's insistence on exposing her to spiritual classes, meditation, and teachings of Edgar Cayce, DeeDee had a fascination and deep interest in the paranormal. Her own paranormal experiences have led her to seek out and interview other fascinating, knowledgeable people for better understanding of this phenomenon. Now, your host of Twilight Tonight, DeeDee Moonflyer.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Twilight Tonight, WLTK-DB. Tonight we have, of course, an amazing guest. I cannot wait to talk to him. Bill Slevin has 30 years experience in the paranormal. He's the founder and lead investigator of Paranormal Existence Research Society, P.E.R.S, in Florida. He is an empath with a lot of childhood experiences, and he's the new shock doc on the Travel Channel, The Devil's Academy. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I am so excited to have you tonight, for one thing, of course. And I'm excited because not only do you investigate, you're an empath as well. And
Yes.
you have childhood experiences. And I would like to start off with, our childhood experiences influence what we do in life.
Yes.
What childhood experiences did you have, Bill?
Well, it was interesting because it's been about almost 35 years now investigating. But before that, when I was young, it was different back then because it wasn't talked about. It wasn't on TV. It wasn't all over the place. Just a few things here and there. So you didn't really know, like today, if somebody starts having experiences or they're starting to think they have abilities or something, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of resources, a lot of people talking about it. It's accepting. Back then it wasn't. People would think you were crazy, and you didn't grow up kind of knowing what they were. So like I noticed, as far as like, I'm not psychic. I'm not a medium. I mean, I've never tried to open up those abilities. Maybe I have them. I don't know. But I used to notice, even from when I was real young, I can feel things. I could feel energy. I could feel emotions. I would go even to like family parties and stuff, and I would notice like, why do I feel strange? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Or why do I feel I was actually feeling other people's emotions on top of possible spiritual emotions, and it kind of made me question things. And, a few experiences I had made me kind of look into it more. Nothing scared me. I just wanted to know more. I mean, I was always into horror and everything like that. And I always wanted to learn a little more about what's real. What is this? What is that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling that? Am I really crazy, or is there something to it? That was the main thing.
Yeah, and it's so funny you mentioned like horror movies and stuff. You've done it on several interviews. And I don't know when you grew up, but I'm a Gen Xer. And we used to have horror hosts. I don't know if you remember them, like Sammy Terry, Dr. Creed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watching them on the weekends was so much fun. Like I never missed a show. So it was awesome.
It's funny, horror didn't scare me back then. The only movie when I was young that ever frightened me was The Exorcist. And it's funny considering what I do. So I don't know how it transpired from that to this. I have no idea, but
it was horrifying. I remember I wasn't allowed to watch it because my mom went to go see it. And she's like, no.
I remember after seeing it, I don't even remember how old I was. I was young, and I remember that night in bed, I was holding my bed, praying it wasn't going to start shaking up and down. Back then that was different. It was something you never really saw before. So it was a big deal,
And it's still very frightening watching that.
Yeah.
Like it still horrifies me. I'm like, ooh, no, that's not cool. So you
Exactly.
went from being an empath to starting to investigate. What year did that start? That started over 35 years ago, right? So that was in
Yeah,
the
it was
early
like I would
90s?
yeah, I started researching as much as I could. I went and found any books I could find and any information I could find, which was little back then, you know. It was hard to find people that were into this to even go and do anything, you know. There wasn't a lot of equipment. I'm an IT guy during the day, so I have a lot of equipment now, and I love
Mhm.
playing with equipment and testing it and seeing how it works. But back then, you didn't use a lot of that, you know. So
Right.
what I did was I started trying to find people that did some of this, and I think it was I wanna say it was '88 or '89 when I actually went on my first residential. At that point, I had gone to, like, local places and some cemeteries and tried to, see what I could do and what, but I didn't know a lot. But it wasn't
Mhm.
until about 1989 I got my first residential, which is what I really wanted to do, and it was hard to find them back then. Because again, it was the same thing. A lot of people didn't look for help because they were afraid people would think they were crazy. You
Mhm.
know,
Sure.
even my family, if I explaining to them what I wanted to do and what I do, I think they still think I'm crazy to this day. But yeah, it's a hard back then it was a hard transition. It's not like now where you could, open a thing and find 50 teams in your local, area that you could go try to join and go out.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really a cool time period in a lot of ways
Mm.
because it is more accepting. And I think people are looking for those answers we didn't have. And
Yeah,
I was fortunate because the way my mom was. I grew up
right.
with this stuff and it was accepted in my household. It was part of our life.
Right.
But outside of that, people thought I was different. They were,
Yes.
yeah, really, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't too accepted in my household. I mean, they wouldn't get mad at me, but, I was raised in an Italian Catholic family and,
Wow.
yeah, so it wasn't the thing that they really thought you should do.
What do they think when they see you on TV now?
I mean, my mother, it's funny, like, especially my mother, they all support me. Everybody supports me, but I don't think she still doesn't 100% even believe things. So it's funny after all this time, I don't understand, and I always take it back to my grandmother, her mother. I believe she doesn't believe because she thinks if there was ghosts and spirits that my grandmother would have come to her by now. I tried to
Oh,
explain it's not exactly always how it works, but I think that's what I don't think she's really had an experience that she knows of. She
right.
may have, but she doesn't understand.
And I find it really cool. You're going to school to become a parapsychologist, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in a course now. It's taking a while. I wish I had more time to stay up on it constantly, but it's tough because it's not even though it is an online metaphysical school, it's not an easy course. It is a long, tough course because you
Mhm.
get your PhD in parapsychology and metaphysical humanistic science. So there's a lot of metaphysics in it, and it's a lot. It's very time consuming. It's a lot. I do enjoy it, and sometimes you question things like, "What is this? Why am I doing this?" And then after you understand that part of the course, you go, "Oh, okay, I understand what that has to do with." It, it is. I try to learn everything because I do travel like with conventions and schools and libraries and
Sure.
try to educate people because there is a lot out there. Look, I don't know everything. Nobody knows everything, but I try to learn as much as I can because I do like the TV shows. I watch them myself. I'm on some of them, but TV and internet also has confused people a lot as far as what is real, what isn't real. And I try to, entertain, but also educate them in a way so that they understand. It's the hardest thing. I tell people the hardest thing I have to deal with because we do a lot of residential cases. I've been
Mhm.
part of 500 or 600 cases by now. I don't even know. Um, but the hardest thing is convincing somebody it's not paranormal because you would think that some of them that are very scared are
Uh-huh.
thrilled to hear that, but some just they don't understand because I saw this on TV and it's the same exact thing. How come they don't look to they look to certain people on the TV as the paranormal experts in the field, and they know the most, and they saw this, so they know it's got to be real. And that's the hardest thing to tell people, because it's kind of, people think it's kind of cool to be haunted right now. Everybody wants to have a ghost and stuff, and I don't understand why, because if they really had one, I'm sure they wouldn't want one.
Their tune might change if they saw something and it became real to them, I'm sure.
Yes, because even if it's not dangerous, it's still going to be frightening.
Yeah.
I laugh when people ask, a lot of the shows I do, people ask about, oh, what about these videos you see on TikTok and stuff of people standing and the doors are opening and closing? And I said, fake. I said, totally fake, because if that person, it's not an investigator. So if that person and their door was opening and closing and open, they wouldn't be standing there holding the camera, filming it. They'd be running for their lives.
Yeah.
There's no way they'd be standing there with a camera going, wow, look at this. I can't believe that, no, that's not how it works.
And people don't understand that stuff happens when you don't expect it.
Yeah, that's it. I tell people the best evidence is never captured. It really isn't. It happens, or, and a lot of it does drain batteries and equipment and energy. It pulls energy. So I've seen it many times where you've seen things and all of a sudden, boom, every camera goes off, every battery is drained. It's something that's honestly very common. When you go out, I have a ridiculous amount of, so like my main camera, I have about 18 rechargeable batteries for it, because I've been places where it will drain and drain and drain and drain, and you have to have it, or else you're not going to have anything with you.
Oh, wow. So out of those, can we talk a few about your investigations publicly?
Mhm.
Pick out the top two that really had an effect on you.
The residential cases you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Of course, I can't say anything that's
Sure.
confidential for the people, but I'm also studied demonology for a long time, so I've been on demonic cases. There are rare, a lot rarer than regular hauntings, but I have been on them. I've been pulled into some. Anything that was demonic and proven demonic is unforgettable. It's things that you will never forget. Things sometimes you never ever thought you would ever see in your life. You sit there and you go, I thought this was only for TV, because TV, of course, enhances things, but there's things on there that you would never think you see in real life. And a lot of times I do repeat this story over and over again sometimes, but my first residential that I was talking about, that was probably one of the things that stuck out in my mind the most ever. It still does, because I was pulled in. There was another team that needed an extra guy for the night because one of their guys was sick, and they asked me to go, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I want to go on a residential case. And it turned out to be a demonic case. And I'll give you the quick story. So when we went in, all I knew was that the lady was an older lady, and she was having issues in the house. She was hearing noises, seeing things, not things were flying off the counters. So I was kind of excited to see what was going on. I had not been in somebody's home yet. And I'm going in with two people that were a little bit experienced. And back then it was different. They had like big, like a big shoulder camera and,
Yeah.
big tape decks and, and we went in the house, and we were in there not even like a minute, and we all ran out to the front yard, and we were all nauseous, but like we were going to throw up. It was really bad, but I didn't smell anything. So right away, I do try to go very scientific. So right away, I'm thinking carbon monoxide, something's not right, because we got instantly ill. But we kind of gathered ourselves, went back in, and it was fine. Nothing going on. We couldn't smell anything. Weren't sick again. So I didn't think too much of it. And we went through the first room into like the main, it was like a big living room type area. And honestly, it was about 3 or 4 minutes. We were just walking in to get set up, and the other investigator on my right screamed through his camera, lens first, to the floor. And we hit the lights. And he was ripping at his shirt, and he pulled his shirt off, and he had 3 razor-like scratch marks from his neck to his spine that were bleeding. Never saw anything like that in my life. I always tell people too, this was in like 1989, I think. If this was today, especially that I didn't know the people well, I would never believe it. I would think it was absolutely rigged, trying to set up for some kind of, TV
Right.
event or something. But back then it wasn't like that. This guy was frightened out of his mind. I mean, and we obviously left at that point. They told the lady that she should stay out of the house for now. And I know I didn't go back for the final thing, but I do know they got a priest involved, and they did I think a minor rite of exorcism in the home, because it wasn't something attached to her, but it was something that you never forget. And what's funny is you get a lot of things, and I'm online in a lot of groups and things. I try to help people. Some want to help, some don't. Some just want to, believe what they think it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people always say, "Oh, look, I woke up and I have 3 scratches," and you can see that they obviously scratched themselves in the middle of the night or something, because you could tell by the scratch. Things I didn't know until I started learning demonology. And then it went back to that case, because I realized they say that a demonic scratch is like a razor blade. And that's the thing. That's what this was. It was not like if you took your arm and you scratched it, you're going to have that kind of wide scratch. And this was literally like somebody took a razor blade down his back. And so I didn't even know that then. And it was 3, which I didn't know at the time is the main thing for demonic, as it's mocking the Holy Trinity. 3 knocks, 3 scratches. So it was things I learned later on that I started applying back to that case, and made me even more interested. But again, most people might have run out of there and never ever been in this field again. But it made me interested. Like, why did it attack him? Why
Right.
didn't it attack me? And at that time, I didn't know a lot about protection. I mean, I went into that with really no protection, which was probably very dumb, but I mean, who I didn't know back then,
Right.
so it just made me wonder, like, why? What did he do? Why did it attack him? So it was definitely an experience I'll definitely never forget. Um, Another one, like, I could tell you a good one that was a case up in New Jersey. These were both up in New Jersey, and this was one of those things where we went in the house. It was a whole family. They had, I think it was 3 kids, all under the age of 14. I think they were like 9, 12, and 13 or something like that. And they were all frightened to death, because they kept saying they were seeing ghosts walking around the house. They were getting headaches. They were I think somebody passed out. There was a lot of weird things going on. And we went in the house, and I've been doing it a little bit now. It was like about maybe 2 years later. And we were going around the house, and we were checking everything, and we're checking this. I found everything you could think of: animals in people's walls, and pipes leaking in the walls, and so many different things you could find. But we couldn't figure this out, and it didn't make sense. And they said most of the time it was when they were in the living room. And then we wound up going down. We got one person had a friend that worked in environmental services and electrical services, and they came in with special real EMF meters that read full on, big levels of EMF. And we went into the basement, because I said something's not right. Went in the basement and found their electrical system, and something wasn't either it wasn't wired or wasn't shielded correctly. They were pushing out so high amounts of EMF, and it was right under the living room. And if you do research on stuff like that,
Right.
EMF will actually cause hallucinations, headaches, nausea. You can pass out, and that's what was causing it.
Wow.
They had to spend a lot of money to get somebody in there to redo all the wiring, on our suggestion. I don't even know if they fully believed it at first, and they did that, and everything stopped. And which
Interesting.
was which is good, because that amount of EMF can permanently damage you. So it was good that they reached out to somebody quick at that time.
Yeah.
But it's the
Just
look on
thinking
the
about that,
yeah. And it's
you know?
honestly, when doing this, like, we're nonprofit, we don't charge. I've never charged 1 penny for any investigation I've ever done. And we're there to help people. And honestly, the faces on them, and the like excitement when they find out that it's not haunted, or if it was, it's gone, and they could
Mhm.
be at peace in their own home. Nobody wants to be all scared and nervous in their own house. Their house is supposed to be like their comfort zone. So it's tough when you go in, especially when there's kids involved.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah. Kids can see anything. They don't
Yeah,
understand the word can't. They just see it. It's just natural for them.
right.
Bill, out of curiosity, what is the strangest case you've ever had?
Um,
The kind that
yeah.
makes you go, why?
Well, again, anything demonic, I don't understand why,
Yeah, yeah.
why some of what happens, but, um, that's a tough one. I mean, I to me, like, something like I just told you is one of the strangest to me because at the time, I didn't know a lot about EMF and things like that, more of the scientific stuff. Because again, it was a lot of it wasn't out there. So to go and find something like that and see that an EMF energy can cause such a an issue on a person to where they're hallucinating.
Right.
Those type of things are very interesting. I mean, I've had some cases where the people truly believed that there was, aliens outside. And although I've studied a little bit, I'm not, definitely not an expert on aliens. But we've had some weird things where it's hard to explain. Some of the things that have happened, you kind of can explain it. You try to explain it, but there's no the problem is now it's like everybody shows you pictures and videos. Before, nobody
Yeah,
had any of that really. So they're just going on what they tell you, and you would hear these stories and you would get there and you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't encounter most of it.
sure.
So that's kind of tough. I'm trying to think of what the strangest one might have been. I don't know. Um, one of again, the demonic cases, there's stuff there. It's not so much strange, it's just shocking.
Yeah, probably
You
very
know?
spooky.
Yeah, it is. If here's one thing, if anybody says that they aren't scared of anything, they're completely lying. I mean, when I go and do like public investigations or we go to people's homes and there is a haunting involved or something, I've been touched. I've even been pushed to the floor and knocked down. It- That stuff I've gotten used to over the years, and things don't scare me in like if we go to an abandoned location or something like that, that doesn't frighten me. But the demonic cases frighten you because you just with the stuff you start seeing, you don't know what's coming next, and you have no idea where this is going. And anybody who says they're not scared in a demonic case is completely lying, or they've never been on a demonic case.
Wow. Now, when you are on those cases, do you see things move?
I
Is it more
have.
verbal? You have
You have I've seen just about everything. I've seen a person levitate off the floor. I've seen a couch fly across the room. I've seen one of the things I talk about all the time in my lectures and on these things is orbs. Orbs, I mean, I don't know how you feel about them. I've learned a lot about them, and 99.9% of what people see are not orbs. They're things caused by the cameras, by the lighting, by all of that.
sure.
A true spirit orb is very different. The term orb actually came out after digital cameras because they were actually something that the makers of the cameras explained how to avoid, by the way you use your flash and everything, because they create orbs. Because the flash or on CCTV cameras, the infrared causes everything to illuminate. A piece of dust, pollen, dirt, anything that's flying around the room can illuminate and look like a giant orb. A true orb is an actual ball of energy, and it's
Mhm.
believed to be a spirit trying to manifest itself. So it pulls the energy from the room and it creates a 3D glowing ball of energy. And they're very rare. I mean, I've 30 something years, I've seen three in my life.
Wow.
I know people that have been doing this for almost 40 years and have never seen one. And I know not one person who has ever captured a true orb on camera. Now there are some I've seen that I can't fully explain. It's tough because when I know, as being an IT professional too for over 30 years, I know how electronics work and I know, what can cause things like that. So I try to debunk it first, but there have been some that definitely I questioned and I couldn't 100% prove. But seeing that is pretty interesting. you
Oh, I
know,
bet. Yeah. Because all of the ones I've seen have been on TV, and I'm always like, is that a bug? That's a
What-
bug.
one of the things that tricks people the most that I see, especially with the ring cameras and everything, is the spiders, because a spider builds its web and then it floats in front of that camera. And it actually
Yeah.
because the like ring cameras and security cameras, they're what's called a fixed focal lens, so they don't focus close up. So anything that's close to the camera, it's blurry, and then the infrared reflects off of it, and it makes it round. So you'll see a spider, and most of the time, sometimes you can see the legs. Most of the time, it's just a round thing, and you don't see the web sometimes. So it just starts floating, right in front of the camera like this. And it's like, and it does trick a lot of people. And then they say, no, we thought about spiders. We went there and we checked in the morning. There was no web. Well,
Right.
most spiders spin their web at night and remove it before the morning, and they disappear and hide. So you're not going to see it most of the time. But
Yeah, I always find it really, really interesting with the orbs. Like I hear about them. My grandparents are from upstate New York on the
Mhm.
St. Lawrence River, like in the boonies. They were in the boonies. And I would hear people talk about them in the woods.
yeah, it,
Orbs.
the main thing is with an orb, if it if it's a possibility of being a real orb, you're gonna see it with your eyes. All those things that people capture on film and they say are orbs, they've never seen them.
Right.
They could have been in a lot of times they'll be like, look, we're sitting there on the couch and they're flying all over the place, but you didn't see them. That's because it's dust and you can't see infrared light. So you can't see it glowing. You won't see it with your eyes. So they don't understand. And also they don't spirits don't travel in packs of 100 to people's homes. I try to tell them,
Little
I said,
bubbles of people.
yeah, they're like all over the place. Like, yeah, no, I don't think you have a whole horde of spirits, flying through your house, but it looks cool. And some of them are interesting. And I can't 100% say, okay, that's not something. But I tell people, paranormal is the unexplained. So if I can explain it, it can't be paranormal, and there's so many things to explain most of those. And
Right.
I tell people, the thing is, if you take a picture, just like, faces in the windows across the street in a leaf, you know, if you're in a place, take pictures in succession, take 3, go 1, 2, 3 in the same place. If you get that shadow in all 3 photos, most likely it's a shadow. If you see it in one of the 3 photos, then it's something to possibly look into, because it could be something. I mean, that's what I take pictures everywhere, and I take a lot of pictures. People don't realize how hard it is to actually capture something on film. I
Oh, I
love
bet it is.
audio.
Yeah.
Audio's better, but film is tough.
Have you actually seen a spirit manifest in front of you?
Yes. I've seen going back to actually before I did my residential, that first residential, I saw the first full-bodied apparition,
Mhm.
and it was absolutely crazy because I was at a friend's house. They were having a party that night, and I always tell everybody I was not drinking, I was not doing drugs. At that night, I honestly had to babysit people. I was not, I was not on anything, and they left, and if it was an old house in my town in Paramus, and I didn't know anything, and nobody really knew I was into that stuff back then because again, a lot of people didn't know about it.
Right.
But we were staying over. It was the girl who lived in the house. Her family was away, and it was like 3 other people, and they were all asleep in the room. They're all passed out. I was watching TV, and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I went out. It was a big house, so we went in the hallway, in this big long hallway. The bathroom was at the end of the hallway, and I walked out, and I looked up, and I didn't know it looked like a person. I mean, it was a pure white. It was an old guy. He was wearing, I mean, very detailed, very strange. He was wearing overalls. He had a hat on. Looked like a farmer.
Yeah.
And I was not scared at all. Did not look threatening. Did not. I was definitely frozen in my spot and staring at him. And I always say it felt like probably 20 minutes, and it was probably like one. you know. And he looked at me. He kinda, like, nodded, and then he turned his head, and he walked right through the door into the other room, and then that probably was about 10 minutes before I was able to move. And then I turned, and I got into the room, and I didn't even go to the bathroom. I went back to the room, and I woke up my friend who lived there, and I said, "Hey," I said, "Eh anybody else live in the house?" And she's like, "No." I go, "No, like grandfather or anybody?" She's like, "No." I go, "Your parents, could they have come home early?" She's like, "No, why?" did you see somebody? And I'm like, well, kind of. And she goes, was it the old man in the overalls?
Oh, wow.
And that honestly, that was one of the things that I guess helped my belief in things. It
Right.
blew my mind because how could she have known that? And she's never talked about anything like this to me. And then she went on to explain that he's there all the time. He doesn't bother anybody. He helps them. So one night, I guess when they were first seeing him once in a while, her mother was woken up in the middle of the night because she was pulled out of bed by him onto the floor. And she panicked, like, what's going on? And she heard a noise downstairs. So she called the cops, and the cops showed up, and there was somebody breaking in the house.
Oh.
So he woke her up, as they
Oh.
believe he woke her up to tell them.
Like,
I
come
you know,
on. Yep.
I assume that's possible, but, so yeah, so those are the type of things, that and I saw a partial manifestation, in a demonic case. The thing I was talking
Ooh.
about, that first orb.
Bill, save
Yeah.
that for after the break.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll be right back and we'll hear more from Bill. Almost. We're back with Bill after I'm done talking to my bird. Bill was talking about his experience with like a demon manifesting itself. I can't wait to hear this. This is exciting. Go ahead, Bill.
So we were at a case that had been deemed, demonic, and they had a priest there doing a minor rite of exorcism in the home.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, like, it takes a little bit. So all of a sudden, maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes into it or something, you started to see this is what I was talking, a little ball of light, maybe about that big. And it started floating around the room. And it kind of took me by surprise because I've heard of this, but I've never seen it at the time. And I watched it grow from about that big to about that big. And again, everything there drained. Cameras went off. Everything drained. It pulled all the power. Even the lights were flickering. It pulled all the power from the room, all the energy, and it moved very. And that's the other thing. It moves very intelligently. It almost like it's looking at you. It was very. It really. I'll be honest with you. It really freaked me out because I didn't know where this was going. What's going to happen?
Right.
Is it going to attack you? It's like, I don't know what it is. I never saw this. And it moved around for a few minutes, and as it got bigger, and then it went into like the corner of the room, and it expanded into about a 7-8 foot shadow, like kind of like a smoke, and it just dissipated all over the place. And then that's when what I was talking, the couch lifted up and flew across the room. And again, if this was now, I would be looking for something that rigged this. But back then it really wasn't, and nobody was looking for fame out of this. The priest, though, I will give him props because I jumped back, the other investigators jumped back. He didn't flinch, and it missed him by about, I would say, about 6 inches. It flew past his face, and he didn't flinch. He was reading, and what he explained to us afterwards was that was whatever it was manifesting and trying to show itself, and that was the last ditch effort before he was done with flushing it out of the house. So
Sure.
that's what he explained to us. At the time, I didn't know a lot about that. So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
That would be fascinating. I know, isn't there only like 12 priests that do this in the United
Mm.
States?
Well, something like that can be done as different. A minor rite of exorcism in a home actually can be, if you want, it's almost like a deliverance. It can be performed not by a trained exorcist. It's a little different, you know.
Gotcha.
I don't know the credentials on this guy because it wasn't my case. I was with a team, but I don't believe he was a trained because the trained exorcists more come in when they believe that the possession is fully on the person and not like an impression in the
Ah,
house.
okay.
And there's a lot involved in that because you have to take into account, you know, mental health and medical, and there's a lot involved. You can't just go in there and go do an exorcism. I mean, people
Right.
do, but that's not really what you should do. You know, a lot of things you have to check out first.
That would be very frightening, I would
Mm.
think. And
It
not something I'd want to do.
I see people in those groups too. They'll post a picture and they'll be like, somebody will come in and be like, that's definitely demonic," you know. And then the author of the post is like, "Oh, that would be cool." No, no, it wouldn't. No, no, it definitely would not. You know,
No, no, I don't think
I
that's something I would not want to experience.
I mean, I'm trained and I do it to help people and I want to help people, but
Sure.
I honestly do not look forward to being called into demonic cases. Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm going, "Oh, great. I can't wait for another one." No. Definitely not.
And like you said, they're so rare. When it
Yeah,
happens, it probably stays in your memory for a very long time.
forever. Really
Yeah,
does.
not to mention that energy, if you're around that energy, that must be so draining because
It's
they
a different
thrive on
type of energy.
fear.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can feel it. It's a totally different type of energy. It's definitely not good energy.
Now, you've investigated so many cases, and one of my questions is that I'm kind of interested in is a bad entity that was once human
Mhm.
and a demon. Obviously, they feel different. If you have an entity that has bad intentions, that did bad things, that have never left this plane, what is the what is the big difference emotionally to you and physically to you?
Ooh, again, you know, I feel the emotions and the energy. That's a tough one because with a ghost, or, you know, a spirit, which was once an earthbound, you know, earthborn person, they have a different type of energy and you can feel their emotions. So like if I'm in like I was on a case where, you know, I don't know, this was a public thing, but I was up in an attic and all of a sudden I just had an overwhelming feel of depression. I had to leave there. I was so depressed. I was almost crying up there. I had to leave there. I want to look into it. We don't really know if something actually happened up in that attic, but those are the type of things you could feel on, for me, on an
Mhm.
actual spirit, and you could feel their energy. For me, it's like more of like a heavy feeling, but with a demonic case, I have never felt any kind of emotions because they were never earthborn people. So I don't think there's any kind of emotions there. You just feel a terrible. The heaviness is almost overwhelming, and it's just a feeling of like dread, like you know, you don't want to be there. It's really it's very like depressing type of feeling. It definitely drains you. I mean, it drains you a lot.
Yeah, I would think your flight and fear would happen really quickly in those
Yeah,
cases. Like, should I run or should I stay?
yeah, yeah. You definitely again, like you say, that once you see one or two and you see things that you never thought you'd see, you don't know what to expect. Like, what's next? You know.
Right,
But
exactly.
you know, one thing I tell people, and it's something I really preach about at my lectures, is that if you want to get into ghost hunting, I fully support everybody go out there and learn and go on ghost tours and get a piece of equipment and have some fun, but learn about it. Do not go into somebody's home. Don't try to do a residential case until you're with somebody who has residential experience because you're dealing with people and you will a untrained you know, person who just watches ghost adventures or ghost hunters and
Mhm.
goes out and wants to do that, they go into a person's home, they know nothing about energy, they know nothing about mental illness, addiction. They will not know the difference when somebody's telling them they're hearing things and they're seeing things move and they're seeing this and they're going to think right away, wow, this is a crazy haunting, when maybe the person has schizophrenia. And if you tell them that they're haunted, your sage isn't going to help their schizophrenia. So you're going to damage that person. So it's honestly something like, go have fun and do it and learn, but don't go into people's homes until you're with somebody who's trained to do that. It can be also, you can get into something that you don't know how to handle, and you're putting yourself in danger, the clients in danger, everybody. So it's real important about that.
Yeah, yeah, that would be very wrong to do, I would think, on so many levels.
There's a lot. I mean, I've encountered a lot of cases I get are because they had a team come in and just mess everything up. You know, a lot of teams don't realize that there's self-manifestation and things that they
Yeah.
can pull things in themselves. If they go in there and there's nothing really in there and they start pulling out equipment and investigating for 5 hours overnight, they may pull something in there, that wasn't there before. There's a lot of things people don't realize, and that's why go out to the cemeteries, go on the ghost tours, go to I try not to promote abandoned buildings, even though I do it myself. But a lot of dangers in that, including legal dangers. So be very careful.
Yes.
But go out and get some experience, or find a local team and learn from them before you go into a person's home. You can't teach yourself to go into a residential case. You could really get yourself in a lot of trouble. You're not going to go to the local ghost tour and find a demon. It's not going to happen.
Right. The other curious thing is, because I've been on ghost tours obviously before, is do you believe some of these places also bring in other things that they don't mean to bring into
Yeah.
the building?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's some of these places you're in, there's so many people going in and out of them, and everybody thinks, okay, we have the history of, this is George, and George is here all the time, and George is probably sick of everybody.
George
so
don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah. So some of those things may not be George. They could be brought in from they could be attached to somebody that's going on the ghost tour. There's so many things that we don't know. I tell people, I don't try to scare them for ghost tours. I go on ghost tours. I still enjoy them. If I'm somewhere, I'll hop on a ghost tour and have fun. I like to learn the history of things too.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're going to go into a local haunted place on a tour and come home with attachments all over you. Now, can it happen? Sure. But most likely not, because most of the things that are there are normally attached to the location. But, I had a situation here in West Palm Beach. We have a place called Yesteryear Village. It's very well known because they have a house called the Riddle House, where it's very, very well known. Ghost Adventures has been there and everything. And I work with a team, War Party Paranormal, and they get a lot of private investigations there, and they always nice enough to bring me over. And I've been there many, many times and never had an issue. And I think it was like October last year, something came back with me. I don't know if it was something attached to me or was the energy, but we actually got an EVP that they said, because I had never been up in the attic, because normally they have the attic closed off, and that's the main part of this place, is that there's a guy, Joseph, who hung himself up in the attic years ago. So that's the main thing of this house. We were up in the attic with a bunch of people, and they were saying, hey, this guy's never been in the attic before, and he has a new device, because I had a different recorder. They said, we want you to talk directly to him. And everybody hit their recorders. We stayed quiet. We played them back, and I had a bunch of I won't take it as evidence if I hear a bunch of garbled noise that I cannot hear something very clearly on, and other people, I won't take. It could be something, but I won't take it as evidence.
Right.
But one of the guys had one of the clearest EVPs I've ever heard, and it was like one I've never heard before, because the voice was over the person talking, asking the question.
Wow.
And he said straight out, he's dead. So I assume it was geared to me. When I came home, and then the next morning I was explaining to my wife, and I was laughing. She didn't find it too funny. And then honestly, for the next, and I protect myself and I cleanse myself when we left and whatever. But for the next about a week or so, I was a mess. I was sick. I wasn't right. Every piece of bad luck that you could think of happened to me. I had to get cleansed and blessed and get it off me. So it can happen. But most of the time in places like that. That's why I don't. That I, obviously that wasn't Joseph that's supposed to be there and whatever. I highly doubt he
Yeah.
followed me to my house. He could have thrown his energy on me that caused that kind of bad luck, because if they throw their bad energy on you, it shifts your energy, and you could have those issues. People don't realize that if maybe they got sick or maybe they were having bad luck, they don't realize it could be something like that.
Right. Exactly. Now you've traveled quite a bit.
Mm.
Have you
Well, a little
been?
bit. I wish I've gotten out more, but we do so many residential cases. I have a huge bucket list of public stuff. But go ahead.
Have you been? You've been outside the country, correct?
I recently just went on vacation. I went to Italy, and then London for a few days and home. I didn't get to do a lot of. I mean, I did bring equipment with me, which was quite interesting. It was only on the way home when my carry-on decided to go through, and get checked and opened up, and they took everything out, and they were putting every piece by piece through they had no idea what this equipment was. I had to sit there and explain to them. I think they were freaking out a little bit. Looked like, detonators or something. I don't know. But
Yeah, probably
so
so. Yeah.
yeah, so they were a little interested in that. But I did take stuff with me when we went out. And again, it was just me and my wife on vacation. But we were in Rome for 7 days, and we went to the Colosseum and everywhere. And man, I really wanted to investigate there, but you're there with a million people. There's so much noise. There's not much you could do. The only thing we really did do is we did go in London. We went and found. Oh, now I'm going to draw a blank on her name. Oh God. What's her the singer from London
Oh,
that died, that overdosed.
Oh, dark hair, really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I
Very
can't think of her
bluesy,
name now.
jazzy. What? Oh no.
That's going to drive me crazy. So we found her house, and we went there at night. My wife, who does not do this, I dragged her with me, and we were there doing some EVPs outside the house. Wait. Amy Winehouse. That's my wife.
That's
She just
it.
posted
Yes.
Amy Winehouse. Thank you. We went outside her house and we were trying to do some EVPs. I didn't get anything. I would have just, it would have blown me away if I would have heard somebody singing across that recorder.
Oh, I
So
bet.
I was trying, and I said, maybe she doesn't like guys too much. So I actually got my wife to say a few things, and we did get something that sounded like something, but really couldn't make it out. So I don't know. But I figured to give it a try. While we were there, it was the only place I could really get to. I would love to go back, overseas and hit some
Yeah.
places. It
That
was
would
tough
be
to do,
amazing.
especially when you're on vacation. It was tough to do because I don't have access to anything there. I don't even know who to contact.
Right.
So
Do especially in the British Isles, that would be
mm,
like an adventure. All those wonderful places. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Well,
Like,
we were we were in Rome for 7 days. Then we went to Naples, and in Naples we went to the catacombs of San Gennaro. Oh, I would have loved to pull some recorders and stuff out underneath there, because you definitely don't have a lot of electronics going on down there. It's pretty cold and pretty dark, and that was really interesting. I mean, there was some great places over there where I love to investigate. But
and I believe those catacombs stretch for miles, don't they?
so yeah, so they were pretty big. This one, the ones in Rome are bigger, but this in Naples, it was the San Gennaro, yeah, San Gennaro, and
Yeah.
they were pretty amazing.
Wow.
The
I bet.
actual the one tomb in there that was the San Gennaro's tomb originally, it still had his big staff down there in the tomb. It was really interesting.
Wow, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I bet you felt a lot of things down there as well, being an empath.
Absolutely. You
You're
can
probably
feel a
like,
lot.
oh.
We did the tour of the Colosseum where they went underground in where they kept the slaves and the animals and everything too, which was really interesting.
Speaking of animals, you've been on all these investigations. Have you seen any animal spirits?
I have never personally seen a spirit that I could say, okay, I believe that was a cat or a dog or whatever. I will tell you, and my wife can attest to this recently. I had a cat for 19 years and she passed away last year. And there has been some times recently where something wasn't right. I heard her a couple times. We've smelt the litter box, certain things, that definitely is strange. Um, I believe so. I've just never confirmed it. Like I never saw a ghost cat running by or anything, but you've heard noises. I've heard barks in places where nobody had a dog, but they said they had a dog, not too long ago. Things like that, but I've never been able to confirm one.
Yeah, I always ask people that question. I'm a big animal person,
Yes.
so I always ask that. I was like, it was funny because, and I've told this story before. Me and my husband first moved into this house, which is a 1938 bungalow.
Hmm.
We both saw the same cat, and it was a black and white one. And we were painting. We weren't paying any attention, and I
Right.
saw the cat walk by, and I was like, "Did my husband let a cat in?" Because we have 5 animals already.
Right.
A few minutes later, he goes, "Why'd you let that cat in?" I'm like, "You mean?" He goes, "The black and white one." And we both
Right.
saw it again, and it just went through a wall, and we just sat there. We were like,
Right. It-
I didn't expect
yeah,
it. Just wow.
that's the
It's like
thing when
how
you
our
see it,
cat plays with it. Yeah.
and it's always
Never seen it.
unexpected.
Yeah.
Always unexpected. It's not
And
like,
I see my cat chasing something once in a while, and I often wonder if it's not that kitty.
yeah, animals are very tough to tell because they're animals, especially cats. Cats act crazy.
Yeah.
I'll have people argue with me, going, "No, there's definitely something in here. My cat was staring at the wall for 30 minutes." I go, "That's a cat. He probably saw an ant on the top of the ceiling that you can't see, and then they're like, you could go with them with food, and they're not going to move." Yeah, yeah. But again, we also know that they have heightened senses, so it could be, but they can't tell us, so we don't know. Same thing with kids. I think a lot now that it's out in the open, like we're saying, I think more people are starting to understand that back in the day, those invisible friends or imaginary friends weren't just an imagination back then. I think some of
No.
them were a little more than an imagination.
Oh, I believe that too. I think kids are so open.
Yeah,
And like I said, they don't understand, no, it's not there. They just see what they
right.
see.
Absolutely.
So, I mean,
Some is
listen to your
imagine.
children.
Right, and so kids have imaginations and they create things and stuff, but I think they're starting to find out not everybody was a full on imaginations. I think some of it's a little more real now. They're starting to understand.
Yeah, exactly. If they see grandpa that they never met and describe
Yeah,
him, you hear stories like that all the time. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories like that from children in your
absolutely.
investigations. So, with all your investigate, I can't even talk tonight. Oh
Friday.
my gosh. With all your investigations, Bill, have you heard from children their evidence?
Yeah, like a child spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Child spirit and live children, have they presented evidence to you?
Yeah, we've had kids come with a lot of things that, again, maybe not all captured, but I've witnessed. Like I was on a case down here in it was down in Miami, and we watched a little girl. I had a recorder. Like I was there just interviewing the family. It was parents and a young girl, and they said she's constantly talking to things, and I said, you can't automatically judge that because, like we said, it can be an imaginary friend that they made up, and um, but she was talking a lot, and when I asked her, I started just very calmly asking her who her friend was, and she said, "My friend doesn't like you."
Uh,
She does. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I said,
right.
Does she want to talk to me?" And she goes, "No, she won't talk to you." So I put a recorder up in the room and we left. I was hoping to get something. I did get some very strange sounds. Like I couldn't make out what they were, and it wasn't like static. It wasn't like a one of these little digital recorders. It was a good Tascam recorder. I just let it run the whole time she was up there because I wanted to hear what she was saying, who she was talking to. But um, I believe there was something there because she was having like full on conversations, and the fact that she kept saying she didn't like me, and then the parents said that they brought a priest to the house just to bless the house,
Right.
and she started crying and getting mad that her friend was very mad and didn't want this man in the house.
Wow.
So, that's very strange. And I mean, the people will definitely start flying the demonic on that, which, could be because I don't know why a regular spirit wouldn't want the priest in the house, because the priest isn't really going to just fly a spirit out of the house. He's pushing on negative energy. We're pushing on negative energy. We tell people, if grandma's here, we're not going to get rid of grandma for you. We're going to get rid of anything bad. But child spirits too. I've been involved in a bunch of cases. Those more with, we had psychics with us that were able to tell us they were child spirits and help them move on. Like I said, unfortunately, I have never opened myself up to that. I say it all the time that I need to start doing it a little more and open up and see what I have, but I just haven't done it yet.
You might open a whole new can of worms there.
Yeah, yeah. Do I want to? I work with a lot of very great, gifted people. I mean, my team is fantastic. Everybody on my team is really handpicked by me, and they're all experts in their own thing.
Right.
Every one of them fits the team well, and they're just. I don't necessarily need somebody on my team that has 50 years experience and knows, been around 5,000 cases. I don't care if you have no experience, but if you have the passion to help people and you have the right, like, personality for it, I can teach you how to investigate, but I can't teach you how to be a caring human.
Right. And I don't think people really truly understand when
Mm,
you investigate, you're in somebody's home, but the spirits were actually, they're people.
yeah, they could have
And
lived in that house before. They could have been
yeah.
on that land before the house was there. I'm also the regional director for the Southeast U.S. and the director of development for the Warren Legacy Foundation. So it carries on. It's run by Chris McKennell, who's the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and it
Mhm.
carries on the legacy of them of helping people. So in this foundation, we have like probably close to 100 people across the globe, and it's like the best of the best. These people are all seasoned investigators that know how to help a person and what's real, not just going and investigating overnight for 5 hours and telling them something crazy. It's really about helping them. And most of my team members are all on the foundation. Also, they're all members. We have a few that are newer that just haven't been put in yet. But
Mhm.
everybody on the foundation is fantastic too, and it's a great organization.
That sounds really awesome. What do you think is next for you?
Hmm. That's tough. I have a lot of, especially since the show came out, The Devil's Academy, and I was on the cover of American Paranormal Magazine last month. And since then, a lot of opportunities start to open up a little bit. I'm doing more conventions and lectures, and I really want to do a lot more educational stuff too. I'm working on a book. It's my first, so it takes a little bit of time. I try to get my name out there, not to be, somebody on a major television show. It's not really why I'm doing it. I'm trying to get it out there so we can become a little more known, to get a lot more cases to help people. And that's honestly is my goal in it. I do love going out and doing public stuff, and I love being on the shows and everything too. But I really want us to get known so that people, because a lot of times, like I said, you go in and they don't want to believe us. They don't know who we are. They don't think I'm telling them the truth sometimes. And you can't help everybody, but we want to help as many people as possible. And same thing with the Warren Foundation, the same goal of theirs.
And I really respect that. I think that is so important for people to realize. If you are into this, you should be into it to find answers and to help others, and to make people grow in that way. So we have a better understanding of what
Yeah,
we call paranormal. One day it may be just normal, everyday part of life.
exactly. Exactly. Research, learn about it, try to help further the industry.
Yeah.
Don't just go out and get a YouTube channel. Try to really learn about it. I'm trying to start my YouTube channel too, but I just don't have the time. But it is important to learn. That's why I tried to study on it as much as I can. I'll read every possible book out there, even if I know from somebody that's stupid book and it not really written by somebody who knows what they're talking about. I'll read it because usually there's something in there, one little piece of information that I never heard of before, I never thought of before. So I like to try to find everything I can.
Oh, I don't blame you. And for people that don't know your new show, The Devil's Academy, can you sum that up for people?
Yeah,
If they haven't seen it, and you have to see it, guys. It's a lot of
yes.
fun.
I'll tell you, it is a great story. This is the newest shock doc on the Travel Channel, Discovery Plus. It's about an event that happened down in Miami in 1979. I keep saying 1970. I mean the 1970s, but it actually happened in 1979, and it was what they're saying is a mass possession of a school. And, there's a lot of controversy between it. Like, was it a mass possession or was it just a bunch of oppressed, crazy kids that just decided to go crazy and cause a problem? Because it was a military school run by a guy who was from Cuba that came over, I believe, from the military, and he created the school, and he was really oppressing these kids. They were, abusing them physically, mentally. They were teaching them Santeria and Ouija boards
Wow.
and tarot cards and seances and hypnosis and just about everything you can think of. So a lot of people say that the kids just acted out and decided to go crazy, and that's very possible. But the eyewitness accounts of the things that happened from the police, from the fire chief that was there and everything, it does not say an oppressed kid that just went crazy. One kid jumped through the second floor window, went right through the glass, landed face first onto the parking lot, and got up without a scratch on him. And then the security guard came over to see if he was okay, and he picked up the security guard and threw him clear across the parking lot. They were ripping doors right off the hinges in the classrooms. One girl who was the one that was being hypnotized at the time, um, freaked out, ran out of the room, she was being hypnotized by the teacher. I don't know what
Okay.
they were trying to do. Um, a lot of people believe this is what started it. They believe she was in a possible possession, and the hypnosis triggered it, and it didn't like that she was being hypnotized. She ran to the bathroom. There was a bunch of people in there helping her, and she was screaming that the devil was inside her. And they say she actually levitated off the floor. So it's a 2-hour documentary, kind of like a little recreation of some things and everything, but it's a really, really interesting story. They put it together well. Of course, it's a little horror like, but
Sure.
yeah, they have some other people in there that they got that are like exorcists and stuff talking about it, and some people push more on the demonic side. It definitely, I wish, not saying I wish it happened, but I wish it had happened, like more recent, so that either there was cameras there or there was, somebody got it on film, because some of the eyewitness stories I would have loved to see for myself, what was going on. It's definitely worth watching. It's an interesting story.
Wow. That sounds, yeah. Gotta watch it, guys. You're gonna love it. So you have a book you're working on. You did the show, and
Yes.
probably a lot more investigations coming your way, I would assume.
Yeah. I have an event next Saturday, May 6th. It's going to be a really fun event. It's a Comic-Con. It's a 1-day Comic-Con called a PopCon in Apopka, Florida, which is just
Uh-huh.
maybe like 20 minutes north of Orlando. And it's at a summer camp, actually. And
Hi.
they're doing a charity for a kids group called I think Kids. Oh God, I'm going to get this wrong. Wait a second. I don't want to say it wrong. Give Kids the World. That's it. It's like a little village outside of Orlando, I think, that they bring. It's kind of like Make-A-Wish. They bring families with sick kids there, and it's like a giant theme park, and they keep them there for I think like maybe a week, and they just treat them and give them great experiences. So it's a fundraiser for that. But there's a bunch of celebrities. We're all going to be there signing autographs. And I'm going to have all my equipment and everything. There's food trucks and music and vendors, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then after hours, it ends at 6, but then from 6 to 10, they're going to have campfires doing s'mores. And we have Mark Muncy, who wrote all the books like Erie, Florida, and all those, and he's going to be there telling ghost stories. And I have a panel, I think it's 11:30 that day, talking about what I do and showing some actual evidence. And it's going to be a fun event.
That's awesome. Bill, I want to truly, truly thank you. And I can't wait to talk to you on my other podcast, Twilight
Yes.
Paranormal Podcast. And I
Definitely.
sent the dates. I can't wait for that. It's been a lot of fun tonight. I really appreciate
Yes.
what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me on. Had a
You're
great time.
welcome. Yes, thank you so much. You have a great night. Thank you,
You
everybody,
too.
for joining us. And I'll
Yes.
talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.